You can't bully yourself to self-acceptance. You have to go in there and really seek to understand, which is beautiful.
So possible to change. If you feel like your block is stuck, it's in your way, you're not sure how to connect with your manifestation, this is going to be your protocol. It's magic.
From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacey Phillips.
And your host, Jessica Gill.
As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. Jessica here. The summer is absolutely flying by. It is almost August, which is crazy, and we just have a few months left in the year. We're already halfway through 2024. And that kind of brings us to today's episode, the science of slowing down. So our Summer Challenge live kickoff call was with Janelle and I, and so many of the themes felt incredibly important and universal to not only listen for our members, but to share with you guys as an audience of what it means to continuously come back to check in with and regulate your nervous system, how to have a moment of reflection this summer. We have our summer challenge going on right now where you can overcome the biggest limiting belief standing in your way, the biggest pain point, that narrative that might just be nagging at you or irritating you, that test or trigger. And how do you really work on it in a dedicated way and overcome it to get to such a new level? That challenge will be open for the rest of the summer until Labor Day. So I believe it's September 2nd. And you guys have access to kind of play around in that space, utilize all of the tools in there, the deep imaginings, the journal prompts. We've sequenced it so you can really go in and use it how you see fit and how you have time to use it. And whenever I get DMs or questions about like, I have this big block, like what's my protocol? And I'm like, the summer challenge. Because I really feel like we packed everything in there to be able to understand what parts of you are coming up, what's going on with your nervous system, and how can you be really intentional about this time? There's a lot kind of up in the air. I heard Jenna Zoe actually talking on her Instagram, and she was saying it's almost like everything's been thrown up into the air, like all of everything is in flux and it's kind of floating above us. And we're having this moment, this pause, this internal feeling of, okay, I get to kind of pick and choose what I want to bring down with me to the table. What is going to come back? Like now that things have been uprooted or uplifted or shifted, or, you know, the rose-colored glasses are off, now that we're seeing things in a new light, how can we intentionally choose what we're bringing back to the table? And that's really what we're going to talk about in this episode today. Like, how do you work with all of these parts of you? How do you work with your nervous system? One question we also get a lot is around body image, and we touch on that in a different way that we've talked about before that I think is really helpful. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy this episode today, and we hope it expands you and gives you some spaciousness to just kind of examine what things have been thrown up in your life that you want to intentionally choose moving forward. Because we are truly in a very ripe time for possibilities and manifestations. Which brings me to my last note before we go into the episode. So many of you have been manifesting like wildfire from this challenge. Even this week, I feel like on Thursday or Wednesday, sometime this week, it was like 5 text messages of all friends just like, oh my God, this came through, this came through, this came through. So I think it's really motivating to hear these stories. So if you are one of those people who have had something kismet come through, something that you've manifested, something wild through the challenge or through this year manifesting with us, please leave us like a mini process voice note. We're going to do an episode collecting all of the stories so we can really expand you guys and get you motivated. even myself and the team hearing some of these stories, we're like, wait a second, I want to jump back into the challenge again. Like they manifested that. That is so cool. So I think those stories will be really fun and powerful. So if you have one of them, please, there's a link in our show note. Leave us a little voice message, share what came through, how it came through, the blocks, any other little tips you think would help all of us expand and get excited and motivated for the potential on the other side.
And now a word from our partners.
So I'm sure you've heard the benefits of red light therapy. It can improve wound healing, reduce stretch marks, fine lines, wrinkles, age spots, improve facial texture, improve scarring, sun-damaged skin. And it really works by stimulating the mitochondria in our cells. When it does that, it helps stimulate the collagen production, giving our skin its structure, strength, elasticity, and improves fibroblast production, which helps create the collagen and all the connective tissue that builds our skin, increases blood circulation, reduces inflammation in cells. And two incredible products that I've been using lately, if you've followed me on Instagram, you've seen this crazy looking mask that I've had on, and it is the Bond Charge Red Light Face Mask. It is such an incredible product. It has red light and near infrared light directly positioned on top of your face. So you can just hook it on, put the Velcro in the back, and its little controller you can pop in your pocket and walk around and go about your day. You can do it while you're doing the dishes or your morning routine or meditating, and you just need it on for 10 to 20 minutes, 3 times a week minimum to see those significant results. I notice the weeks that I am consistent with it, I can notice a more glowing skin texture. It brings color back to my face. It helps support some of those fine lines, especially around my eyes and my forehead. And it's just such an incredible beauty hack. They just released a brand new product to go along with it, the Red Light Neck and Chest Mask. So if you are someone that is looking down at their phone all the time, which I'm very guilty of, and you start to get those lines around your neck, or if you have any sun damage or wrinkles or lines on your chest, it covers that exact area. I also just love every product by Bond Charge because it is so science-backed. It is the lowest EMF you can possibly get, and it is the most effective and strongest wavelengths, the most optimal wavelengths that you can use in red light therapy. It truly is best in class and best in industry in face masks out there, and priced so well. Some other red light face masks out there are more than double in price. And you can get 15% off if you use code MAGNETIC. That's all caps MAGNETIC, and get 15% off your Bond Charge Red Light Face Mask or your Bond Charge Red Light Neck and Chest Mask, or any other biohacking red light products from Bond Charge. Again, that's code MAGNETIC, all caps MAGNETIC, for 15% off. Check out the link in the show notes or go to bondcharge.com.
All right, on to the episode.
Welcome, Janelle.
Thank you so much. It's so fun to be here.
I thought we could kick off today. There's just so much going on in the world. We could ground into our bodies. This is the theme of the week. How can we kind of drop into our heart space, into our bodies, into a feeling of safety? So are there any exercises? And by the way, all of the somatic exercises, all of the grounding exercises, Janelle has so graciously given her wisdom and gifts to allow us to add them into the deep imagining. So you can thank Janelle for all of those amazing techniques.
Thank you so much. Let's start actually just by orienting wherever you are. So what that looks like is go ahead and look to the right of wherever you are and look to the left. I want you to look at your ceiling, look at your floor. Take in texture and color, and look behind you, to your right and to your left, both ways. And intuitively just notice where your body wants to look, just reorienting again. And when we do this, we're cueing safety to our bodies, that we're in a safe environment. And then from this space, go ahead, take a deep breath in and out. And we're going to do a deep breath in. We're going to hold at the top, and then we're going to do a long exhalation out. So deep breath in again. Hold. And then long exhalation out. And then last thing, real quick, I just want you to move your joints. So your neck side to side, roll your neck. You can roll your shoulders, roll your wrists, your elbows. Again, signaling safety to your body. We tense up when we're stressed. And land.
Oh, so good. It's so crazy how those little tiny moments. I also like telling myself too, like I am reconnecting with my body. This moment, this little moment, exercise, whatever it is me coming back into my body so I can feel embodied, so I can make decisions utilizing all parts of my body. So, so helpful.
Yeah, so good.
So before we jump in, this week in the challenge is all about regulating. We have our podcast episode about it. We've talked about it so much. And I hope you guys are learning a lot and learning a little bit about your own nervous systems and how they respond to things. Is there anything you think people should know as they are jumping into this nervous system work? Let's say it's their first time kind of, oh, whoa, what does it feel like to drop into my body, to feel the sensations, to go in? Any notes of encouragements or thoughts there?
Everybody's going to be in such a different place with this, and that's totally okay. You're just meeting yourself where you're at. Yeah, it's really about right now just creating even the awareness of, oh, wow, I am way more dysregulated than I thought I was. And so what's so fascinating is that you can be a deeply self-aware person, have a ton of self-awareness, and also like your shoulders could be like up to your ears in stress and not be aware of it. I think a lot of people in this community have done so much, typically have done a lot of inner work. It's interesting to basically, instead of going from a top-down approach, go from a bottoms-up approach. It's a slower way of working through your trauma. It's very gentle. It's putting us like an aloe on it, and it's getting used to just like a different way of working through trauma than being in the head.
I think that's so true. And I think, especially as someone who can live in their head, like so cerebrally, that when I'm in a disconnected state, when I'm in a stuck state, when I'm feeling uninspired, if I'm in a rut or even a rock bottom, I recognize like, oh, there has been a period in which I've been disconnected from my body. Yeah. I haven't been checking in with it, tapping in with it, all of that stuff. Remembering that it's this practice of like, okay, we might go to our head naturally, but how do we come back in? How do we feel safe in there? And it was interesting. I was putting some final listening touches on the new beliefs reinforcing DI, which will be coming out in week 5 of the challenge. So listening to it yesterday for spacing alignment. And at the end of it, I was like, wow, that was so good, so profound. I was like, I need to come back to my body now. And so I started like tapping around and feeling in, because sometimes in the DIs, it feels like you're in a whole nother dimension. And so I've started applying some of the somatic experiencing exercises and a quick breath just to come back in and be like, okay, now we're back on earth. We're good. We're safe.
Yes, so good. And I think for me, I, love being in my head and I want to figure it out. And so for me, there's sometimes where I'm like, no, I have to go back in my body first. And then usually my answer comes so much quicker. It doesn't feel like a shortcut, but it really is, at least for me, to get my pings or awareness that I'm looking for instead of just like pushing through it. So, yeah.
The mind is so strong. It just convinces us we don't need to be in our bodies at all. We're like, oh, we don't need to be so slow. I've got all the answers. Don't worry about it. And it's like our bodies actually know so much more.
Right.
Okay, so we have a lot of questions. I'm so excited to dive in. I knew this is going to be the number one question, but how do you narrow down your blocks to find one core focus? I feel like I have so many. I'm really not sure where to begin. So, a couple things. The reason we have sort of, okay, take inventory of everything going on. That one question where it's like, where are you triggered? And you have all those questions in the find your biggest block exercise. And for anyone that doesn't know, if you haven't done it yet, you haven't done pre-week yet, we have that find your biggest block exercise. So that is going to help you kind of start to narrow it down. But that in that question, that's most likely where you're going to be like, oh my God, I have a lot. And then you go to the fear question. And I know it says, choose the biggest fear, but I'm sure if you're like me, you probably listed many fears because I did too. And then you go to the next one, you're like, okay, what is the pattern of behavior playing out here? And it goes to a couple different things. But then if you go to that final root one, what is the limiting belief underneath of it? One thing, I shared this on my Instagram stories, but one thing that helps me get to it is like, if I look back at all my answers to all of these questions, what is the one belief system I must be believing about myself in order for these dynamics to be playing out? That helps get you to okay, there is something like this triggering thing that might be happening at someone's work, and the other thing that's happening in their friendship, and the other thing that's happening here. What is the root narrative or story that you are taking away from each of those examples? Because yes, you could say like, I don't feel like I can have the success I want in career. Or you could say, I don't feel like I can have the friendship dynamic that honors my boundaries. And you can be like, those are different things. Well, what's the root belief beneath all of that? And there's usually one that can filter into it, that can filter into it, that can filter into it. So I think just thinking, okay, if I had to connect all of these patterns to something I'm believing about myself, what might that be? How do you see it?
Honestly, even when someone comes in for EMDR, we might start with something random here, but like, what's the saying? All roads lead to Rome. It's kind of like they all go back in some way are interconnected, and they might be just nuanced spinoffs of the same core, typically attachment wound. So if one road grabs your attention, go with that one, because it will still lead you to, ultimately, if you do this work long enough, it will lead you to your core wound.
I love that. I love that permission slip too. And also trusting the vernacular of whatever you think that wound is can evolve a little bit. Like you can tweak the verbiage, you can tweak the wording. Initially, when we first crafted the exercise, I was like, oh, it's my needs don't matter. And then it became, oh, I'm not capable of meeting my needs. And then I don't know if I believe that, because I can meet my needs sometimes. And then after refining it and going over it again last week, it was that if I honor my needs first, I'm going to lose connection or safety. Connection and love specifically, actually. And so that's that like attachment wound that like, oh, it's not that I'm not capable of it. It's that if I do it, I'm going to have some sort of disconnect from someone else if I put mine first. I think the other thing I kind of want to highlight around the blocks too is that it's not that you're operating on this block on every single facet of your life. It's just that there are going to be some sticking spots where you are then repeating that pattern. And repeating that pattern is what is keeping you in distance from your manifestation. And that's also why we mentioned like, okay, think about your manifestation. How does this tie in? We're manifesting our next home. Well, my home is part of my authentic code. It is just so intrinsic to me feeling grounded and regulated to have an inspiring space around me. So it's a need. And if it's a need, I'm not going to think I can honor that first until I honor XYZ other people's needs. And so of course that's going to be in the way of that manifestation.
Yeah, so good.
I'm so excited for you guys. I know this is very deep emotional work, but it's also so powerful because just taking this concentrated look at whatever this block is that's coming up is going to give you so much healing on the other side. Whew, I can't wait to hear what comes up for everyone. It's going to be huge. Okay, next question. Manifesting career blocked around being seen and believing that things can work out for me. Suddenly, I'm totally triggered and absorbed in my family. What gives? I've noticed a lot of people, especially this past week or 2 weeks, mention how they felt really not blocked by this old pattern. And they connected with either friends from many years ago or, they saw family recently. And it's like, oh my God, that pattern's still playing out. So she's manifesting career, feeling blocked around being seen, believing things can work out for her. And suddenly she's totally triggered and absorbed in all of her family stuff. So a situation where she can't be seen really because she's having to attune to everyone else. And it's not really in her best interest or her highest self working out. It's all in service of them, it seems like.
Yeah, it's so humbling, isn't it? We go, oh, we nailed this. And here we find ourselves stuck. or we're back in that same place, like, how am I in again? I feel like it's so easy to get into a really deep shame spiral when we're there. And I just want to normalize that there's just layers, and sometimes in stress we regress and it will find ourselves back. It doesn't mean that you didn't do any of the work that you previously did. To me, it's just another opportunity. I like to say holidays and Thanksgiving and Christmas, or any time with your family, is an opportunity to put in the correction. If you find yourself back, that's where you go, okay, no shame. My inner child needs my attention. And you pull yourself back and you scope out. We either get absorbed right in it, and then that's where it's like you take a pause when you go, whoa, I'm right back in it. And to me, that's a cue for me that I need to scope out. I need some alone time. I need some space. And I scope out and go, I see what this is. And then I can navigate it with my integrated adult self. It's almost like my inner child or my teenager came back online for a minute. And it's like, wait a second, I'm actually in the driver's seat, and we're gonna take care of you too, you know? So you can almost like uncouple it quicker than you think when there's a baseline there. You can go bounce back. I think that first time when you're really like breaking that pattern for that first time, that can be a really sticky process and with a lot of grief. But when you're just like, oops, I just got a little bit, that actually can, yeah, you can bounce back quicker. And so it's great that you noticed it.
I love that. And I love that almost like self-expansion.
Yeah.
That if you have been chipping away at a block before, even if what you're taking to this challenge is a block that you've chipped away at before, but now you're hitting it from a whole nother angle, you already have some resiliency, some expansion that's possible. That neural pathway is already starting to be carved into that new, more aligned space. You're just doubling down on it and making it stronger and stronger.
Right, exactly.
Okay, this is a good one about the nervous system. Why do I initially feel a sense of flight when thinking about something that really lights me up, i.e., a possible new career path or vacation? But it's in sort of that activated state. I really resonate with this because I'm a generator in human design. So when I'm lit up by something, I'm like, go, 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 go. Like so excited. I am feeling buzzy and happy and can't wait to utilize all this energy. But curious what you think that means for the nervous system.
So those are on like the same channel, if you will. And so it is funny to be able to be like, I'm so excited, and my nervous system is so activated that I also feel like I'm thinking of a friend that shared a story about how at their childhood birthday party, they were so excited they threw up. Oh no. But it's like, yeah, it's like you're so excited, and also your nervous system is so activated at the same time too. So I want to normalize it. And I know it's like tricky to uncouple. And that's where I say, okay, you still want to help bring yourself into to be able to access some safety, and also to be excited and access the safety at the same time. And so there's something called like an overcoupled, and sometimes something's undercoupled in our nervous system that can be potentially a little bit of that happening. And so it needs to be a little bit teased apart to be able to access your safety and also be excited at the same time. I will say too that sometimes if we are on for something, giving a presentation at work, or we're, I don't know, doing something that we have to show up for, we do want some activation energy there. You know, a regulated nervous system isn't always calm. It actually really helps us. Like if you have a job interview, you want to access some activation because it does help you. A little bit of cortisol, it's okay, you know, to be able to help you get through that.
I think that's so powerful, knowing that it's okay if you peak up in that state, and also that you can continue to have that excitement and that lit upness and that buzzy energy and feel safe and grounded at the same time. Or if you need to dip into it for a period of time because let's say you get really excited about an idea, and maybe you're the person who's going to pitch the vacation to your friends and family about what to go on. Maybe you do want some of that activation energy so you can be buzzy and share it and all of the things. I think of Beyonce, who's a generator as well. Yes. And you know, when she goes on stage to perform for her tours, like she needs some activating energy. Otherwise, we would not get the performance we're getting from her. But I would bet that in order for her not to have a super dysregulated nervous system, she has to go back down and ground, maybe go rest for a few days after. Like there is a back to balance state. And I think I love how you said, regulated nervous system is not calm all the time. It's going in those ebbs and flows. It's okay if we have those dysregulated states. It's just teaching our bodies how to come back.
Yeah, it's what becomes problematic is when we get stuck in those states.
Okay, sometimes when I do a DI, I have a hard time connecting with any guides or seeing imagery. What would you suggest there?
Yeah, there could be a number of things happening. It can be very easy when we're doing trauma work to get disassociated. And so sometimes even thinking, oh, I'm going into and look at my trauma, even that alone, we could go away and we'll be in it, but we're in a different kind of altered state. That totally happens. And so to be able to notice it and bring yourself back. And so when you can be able to be more online, where we don't disassociate, you'll have more access to image and memory and sensation and feeling and more come through. That's why that's the whole thing. We can't renegotiate our trauma if our nervous system isn't online. So I think a lot of those times when people kind of are like, they just kind of feel spaced out or they don't feel connected to a DI, that's a sign of just subtle disassociation. So that's where I would say, go back to the new DIs, go back to the reset, move your body a little bit, come back to it, get a drink of water, maybe start something smaller. Maybe needs to be something that's not so intimidating, something where you're like, okay, there's a situation where I can really easily talk about. That's actually a really good sign that it's not too traumatic. And so maybe start with something little where you're like, I stayed online the whole time during that DI. That was easy because like I had this come through and this, and I was really engaged. So you can kind of even show yourself what the difference is, where you can be, oh, I was really disassociated because I didn't want to deal with my mom today, or so that might help.
I think that's so important. And that's really the point of having these DIs, having the calming section of the DIs, is how can we reconnect with our bodies to calm our nervous system to even be able to go in to do that bigger work. Another tip I'll give is if you are someone who tends to be an overthinker, a perfectionist, doesn't trust that you're doing it right, I would listen to a DI first in a completely conscious state. Like I wouldn't try to drop in. I would listen to be like, I just want to know what's coming up. I want to hear what the exercises are. I want to hear what they're going to ask me to do. So you can start to feel safe. I know what they're going to ask me here. Okay, cool. Like I know they're going to ask me to pull up an expander or a safe person. Okay, cool. And maybe even if you want, you can write down a note like, okay, I'm going to pull up a safe person. I'm going to pull up this, just so you can be like, when I go in here, I know what to expect. I've already listened to it. I know what's coming up. And that first initial time of listening, don't put any pressure on yourself to visualize, to recall any of the prompts. Just go listen to it with the intent of, I'm just allowing my nervous system to feel safe listening to this first ahead of time. I don't know. Sometimes when you get anxious about going out to dinner because you're not sure what you're going to eat and you look at the menu ahead of time, so you're like, okay, at least I have an idea of a food I can choose that would feel nourishing to me. It's the same thing.
I'm also thinking some people that are just, their brains aren't as visual learners. Another thing you could do is just play the DI, get in a really cozy space, and then pen to paper. You could journal out the prompts while listening to it. Don't type it out, but definitely pen to paper because there's some science behind it of how that integrates in our brain. So if they're really stuck with that, that could be also a potential access point in.
And I think too, for people who might not be as visually inclined in there, if it's like, okay, bring forward your safe person or, visualize this scene. Instead of visualizing, maybe drop into the sensations. Okay, when you think of a safe person, how's your body feel? Where do you feel protection from that safe person in your body? Are there any colors that pop up or words or sounds? Lean on your other senses as you're going through there and really make it your own.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people asking about this challenge comparatively to how to manifest. And then also someone asked, I've tried unblocking from every angle, have been radically honest with myself, but I still feel blocked. Any advice for people in this situation? So I'll just give a quick overview of this challenge just in case anyone joining hasn't listened to the podcast on it or anything coming up. So typically in our membership, we do 2 challenges a year. Our end of year one stems around crafting our manifestation list, finding expanders, all different exercises that kind of connect back to how to manifest. And our manifestation lists are something that's achievable in 6 to 12 months. So likely if you did the winter challenge with us, you might just be starting to get some of those manifestations come through, or you're still working to connect with them. So we didn't want to give you guys a brand new list to take through in this challenge. So you can reference the one that you created in the winter, or if you just have one thing that you want to think about as you're going through this challenge, that's great too. If you want to update your list before jumping to this challenge, that's great. But there's less of a focus on crafting the list and the perfect item in this one. This is really going to basically deepen all of that unblocking work and look at, okay, what is really standing in my way when I look at my tests, when I look at my triggers, when I look at the patterns that's coming up. That is the thing that the universe is asking me to move through, to learn, to kind of overcome in this moment. And we're going to go through it this week through your nervous system. Next week, you'll understand why this part of you, why this block popped up, the fear behind it, what is helping protect you from. The week after that, we're going to go into your inner child, connect with that. What was the inner child story around this block? How do we validate that inner child's needs? Incredible validation DI, which is chef's kiss. Also a shorter one, so it's a really good one to stack with like one of the regulating DIs. And then once you're regulated, you can drop into validation, and I feel like it just hits so much deeper. And then we're going to really go in and say, okay, so we were attached to this old belief system. We're going to overwrite it into a new empowering one. Is there any fear we have in starting to live from this new empowering belief? What does that mean to let go of this old neural pathway? What does it mean to make decisions from that place? And then that final week is all about reinforcing. So taking action that is aligned with this new belief. And we have a DI that will help you guys practice taking that action, being in that energy of your whole self. So it's going to be a lot of really, really cool unblockings. We have a lot of new exercises that we've never done before. So if you are someone who feels stuck in unblocking, you're like, I've tried, I don't know what to do, we got you. This is the challenge for you. And we'll have it open throughout the rest of the summer. So you have plenty of time to like go back in if you want to take a bit longer, or you need, space in certain sections too.
By now, you're starting to get the feel for TBM. Maybe you've heard about our workshops and you're interested in manifestation, but you just don't have the time or energy to sit down and do self-help work. We totally get it. In fact, that's why we created the Daily Practice, which is our massive library of self-hypnosis tracks that you can do anytime without having to jump into a workshop. We call these tracks our deep imaginings, or DIs. DIs are different than normal meditations because we designed them using a combination of self-hypnosis techniques, deep theta waves, EMDR-informed tools, and somatic experiencing. A fully loaded formula that is scientifically proven to help you clear your blocks and triggers on a subconscious level, giving you the power to actually create new neural pathways in your brain. So if your boss pisses you off, use our trigger DI. If you want to feel magnetic before a party or an important meeting, use the magnetic self DI. If you're feeling anxious or down on yourself, or you need help making a decision, we've got a DI for all of these scenarios and more. You can get full access to the Daily Practice inside the Pathway membership, where you'll also get unlimited access to every workshop, tool, and offering from TBM. The tools in the Pathway membership will support you year-round, whether you're in the worst, a rock bottom, or second worst, a rut, or feeling good and you want to keep the magnetism going. In the Pathway, you'll effectively learn how to become your own manifestation coach, all for less than $1 a day. So even if you're not ready to start a workshop, join the Pathway and start rewriting your neural pathways now to create magnetism. Work through your triggers and get closer to your authentic magnetic self in order to manifest. Use our special code MAGNETIC, all caps, MAGNETIC, NETIC, to receive $20 off your first TBM purchase. Again, that's all caps, magnetic. Now back to the episode.
Okay, this is interesting. How do you differentiate between being reckless and aligned action when you're pursuing your goals, particularly in terms of money management? So I could see like someone who might be on the end of their FU fund and they're like, okay, I'm taking aligned action versus am I putting myself in a precarious money situation?
That's a great question.
My initial thought, and I think we've said this on a podcast or something in the past before, but in order to connect with your high self, right? Because if you think about like our magnetic self, our authentic self is within us. And then we have all of the parts of us that are the programming, the pain, shame, trying to protect us. We have our inner child, we have our shadow, like we have all these parts inside. And the goal is to really get that authentic magnetic part to be in the driver's seat more often. If you are in a state where your basic needs are not being met, meaning that you do not have enough money to put food on the table, you can't care for yourself, all of those things, and you're saying, okay, well, I just trust that it'll work out. I'm not going to settle for a job that doesn't fully feel like my manifestation. I would encourage you to at least have a baseline of safety so you can allow that magnetic self to come into the driver's seat. Because if your needs aren't met in that regard, you're going to default back to those fear-based patterns. You're going to default back to those feelings of unworthiness or not enough or desperation. And so when you are at that maybe money dwindling state, that is where you want to say, I need a bridge. What is a bridge opportunity that might not be my full list that I can call in and connect with to be able to get me to at least a baseline where I feel like, okay, I have a little bit taken care of, I'm good, and now I can start to expand out from what I knew before.
So well said and so important because you're basically talking about baseline survival. Survival trumps everything. So like you have to have those basic needs met before you can kind of go deeper. So that's perfect. I completely agree. And I get that it's like kind of a humbling place to be, but you'll build on it. You'll build.
And I just want to remind people too, like bridge jobs are not steps backwards. They're bridges forward. They're actually helping you get closer to where you want to be by approaching it from a more grounded, integrated place. If you're trying to jump from step 0 to step 100 and you don't see it's believable, you don't really have expanders, you're feeling super blocked, that's going to be a really hard, you could jump as high as you want, you're not going to make that leap. Little bridges are going to get you there over time. So they're extremely magnetic to be manifesting bridges. And it also is teaching yourself that you can trust yourself to provide for yourself, to care for yourself, to meet your own needs. I think it's a really magnetic thing to do that.
Yeah, so well said. Yes.
Oh, this is a question we got too. Can you be in multiple states at once? Can you be in fight or flight at the same time? Are there different combinations and what does that mean?
Yes, you can. You absolutely can be in both. And you want to meet your nervous system where it's at. So that's kind of why we did the 2 different DIs, is that if you find like if in the morning you were really fight or flight, really activated, and then at night you feel totally shut down, well, you're going to want to do the freeze and fawn nervous system off DI. Yes, people bounce back and forth. So when you're working with yourself, just meet yourself at whatever state you kind of determine that you're in.
That's a great note too, because I remember when we were first going through it, I felt like I had a lot of characterizations in the flight mode and in the freeze mode. And then when I kind of spaced it out and really looked at, well, when am I going into each of these modes? It's like, oh, there was a period of time in which I'm in a flight mode, all of that energy. And then at the end of the day, I would crash. And it was like, I can't do anything. I'm burnt out. And I also was in that pattern throughout my week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, jam-packed schedule, multiple podcasts a day, doing this, running to this, trying to get get as much done as possible so I could have a lighter Thursday and Friday. And yet, by the time I got to Thursday and Friday, because there was no balance, I'd be so burnt out. I love the idea of look at the nervous system state that you're in this very moment in time. Likely you're going to feel whether it's overactive or underactive, and then move from one notch to the other. And sometimes I've even done the freeze fawn DI and brought some activation to it. And when I get activation, and this is also true for people who may suffer from depression as well, I've seen this, is that under the depression is anger. And so if you can get back out of that freeze state of depression, you start to feel your rage again, your anger, and then you can go into the fight flight one to process that next emotion there as well.
Sometimes people will literally skip over the fight and flight and go state to freeze. Like their nervous system completely overrides that state. But just when you were saying, Jessica, like somebody in the freeze state or fawn state, when they start to settle, it's almost like a melting iceberg. They'll go back into that fight or flight. So yes, there'll be some potential anger charge, even with, any client they're working with like more depression. And when they're healing, there's usually some anger that pops up, which is such a good sign to work them through that charge.
I just love that there is like a wave, like the emotions can, and it's not that they're going to do it every time. Like you might be in a freeze fawn and then go back to balance and you feel great. But just know that if you do feel like, wait, but now I just did this today, now I'm feeling angry, or now I'm feeling activated. Okay, awesome. You actually are healing that, and you're going back, and now you can do that other DI, pair it right, another 10 minutes and get back to that regulated state.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, this is a good one. So my block is around body dysmorphia. I want to feel juicy and magnetic in my body, but how do I differentiate between the need of actual changes and body acceptance, and kind of blaming everything I don't feel on my body?
Such a beautiful question. And this is such a tender topic. This is my opinion. To heal anything, we have to start with love and acceptance. So if she's talking about body acceptance, my first go-to is being able to accept our body. Even if we want to change something, I know that sounds like a paradox, but to be able to accept ourselves exactly where we're at and love ourselves exactly where we're at. And the first step of healing body dysmorphia is actually just moving into acceptance, like love and acceptance and compassion to where we're at.
I've definitely struggled with body dysmorphia and really struggled body image at various times. And actually, I've recently had resurgence of those emotions and feelings come back recently. And I think for me, what has been really challenging, but then also helpful on the other side, is that if you think about parts work, like internal family systems, you have all these different parts. The part of me that picked up the body dysmorphia, that I had to look a certain way and that my body didn't look like that, is often in the driver's seat when I can't access compassion for my body. I want to access compassion for it. And I know my true self is any size is great. I'm so loved. That doesn't matter. That's not a reflection of my worth. But that little sneaky young part comes in. I call her my fifth grade Jess. She comes in as a protector part, and she's like, no, we can't do that, and blah, blah, blah. And she starts freaking out. And so start to take note of some of the signs that you have blended with that young, wounded narrative versus the voice of your true, authentic self. Because now, even if I can't feel total acceptance in the moment, I can at least acknowledge and witness, oh, that's that younger part coming over. That's how she talks. That's how her nervous system reacts. She gets, kind of angry, and I'll have a critical voice.
She's trying to keep you loved. Mm-hmm. Basically, she believes this narrative that I have to look a certain way in order to be loved. And that is the survival need. So she gets probably really loud.
Mm-hmm. I like to journal from that part. So if I feel really activated with her, I'm like, all right, girl, tell me, what is it? What's the feeling? Like, lay it all on me. And I'll let her just kind of vent. And I think it's the Speak My Needs DI, there's space to talk to someone else in the chair across from you. And I'll bring her in there and I'll be like, all right, give it to me. What do you got? What's your feeling? Driver's seat DI is great for this too. And once she can express all of her worries, concerns, criticism, whatever, then that opens a small window where I can allow my true self to be like, okay, I see. You're just in pain. You're just sad. You're just, okay, you don't feel safe at all. That's so tough, and then you can start that reparenting process with that piece of you.
So good.
That is my thoughts for the body image stuff. It's a really tough one, but I think especially in week 2, when you take this block through, what are all the parts of your body dysmorphia? The part of you that might actually want your body to make some changes because it's better for your health. The part of you that maybe wants your body to change because it doesn't feel worthy enough. The part of you that love and accepts your body. What are all the players of the team that are coming to the table surrounding this block? Because so many times when we're stuck in our blocks, we have opposite characters in there and they're at odds. And so we can't allow one to eclipse the other, basically. We have to figure out how to get them to express, feel seen.
And that's how you get to the compassion and acceptance, basically. It's like you have to work with these defending parts. And then through that work, then you get to the compassion and acceptance. And then you can see really clearly before it's just foggy. Yeah. It's basically like you can't bully yourself to self-acceptance. You have to go in there and really seek to understand, which is beautiful.
Also sending you so much love if you're going through this.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. So my dreams are filled with anxiety, and then I wake up, exhibit freeze or flight, feeling physically tense and shaken. Will calming my nervous system help with anxiety I'm feeling in my dreams? I had this literally 2 days ago where my dream was so intense that I woke up and I was like, I'm actually in a bad mood because of my dream.
Yeah, I've had that too. Sometimes there's a lot of activation and if we're not processing it on our conscious level, our subconscious is like a cleaning. That's what dreams are. They're cleaning out in that REM cycle, all of the unprocessed stuff. If there was some charge that didn't get expressed, I'm always like, well, what was not the details of the dream, but like, what's the emotional charge of a dream? I'll totally have, if I have a lot going on, I'll totally have a stress dream. Or if I have unprocessed anger towards something, I'll totally have some dream where I'm really angry, it's more about like the charge of the emotion behind it. So if you wake up with it, that's a beautiful kind of, you're like gifted, like, okay, here we go. And I would totally do a nervous system reset and really to be able to sense whatever emotion is there, like track for anxiety, like really tracking it in your body. So a lot of times if we have anxiety, we'll just like bypass it real quick. And this is like, you track it and you don't look away. And through that process, it does discharge.
I think that's so powerful. And I love not taking the actual visuals of your dream as like symbols of some ominous thing, but the feeling beneath it. And that's what your subconscious is trying to
release. Process.
It's so wild. I know everyone talks about like how important sleep is and you hear it over and over again. But even when it comes to, and that's why even in the pre-week, we were like, what are some things you can do to like help your neuroplasticity? Sleep is so huge. Like prioritizing a full sleep cycle of like 7.5 to 8 hours, even for your brain to just start pairing up new empowering beliefs in there deeper, to start washing away the ones that don't need to start processing the healing that you're doing in the DIs. Sleep is such a pivotal process for your brain to be able to integrate everything that you're doing in this work. So really set some boundaries around your sleep during this challenge portal.
Yeah.
One question we got is around like what to expect with the challenge and the workload so they feel prepared and all of that. So we typically structure it like 5 days a week. And you can pick that whether you want to do it on the weekends or during the week or whatever it is. We kind of structure, you can do Monday through Friday. And I like to just put like a 30-minute window on my calendar, either in the morning or at night, when I know I can dedicate time to it. And because a lot of the deep journaling work can be long with also doing a deep imagining, typically the first day of the week, we have like that investigative journaling exercise. And then the rest of the week, we're really concentrated on the DI work. There might be some like 1 or 2 journal prompts just so you have recall of something you want to bring through it. But a lot of it is going to be very focused on the deep imagining work. And the other cool thing is figure out when in your schedule certain DIs feel better. So I know that I really like doing a processing DI later in the day. First thing in the morning, it's not the best for me. The regulating DIs in the morning feel fantastic. Calming DIs in the morning feel fantastic, but the more deeper work, I need the afternoon or evening to kind of sit and process. And you can also do a lot of them, or really any of them, walking. So if you feel safe enough in an area where there's not a ton of people, the EMDR of being able to walk and have your eyes kind of move side to side can help that integrate deeper. Test it out. Try different ones. Try ones where you're laying down, try ones when you're walking, try all different options for it. But it's going to be about 30 minutes, 5 times a week, I would say is the average there. So just so you can kind of wrap your minds around it. And I know sometimes people double up over the weekend to kind of catch up too. Okay. One thing I'd like to chat on is when people are going into deep healing work and they're going to look at these blocks. What is the importance of boundaries? Someone mentioned they have a narcissistic parent. How can that hinder the process? What sort of boundaries should someone have around those around them as they're going into some of the healing work?
A couple different things. There's like boundaries around even telling somebody I'm doing healing work and manifesting or whatever, So give yourself permission to set boundaries whenever you need to, with whomever you need to. It could be that someone's in the process of manifestation and someone's like, oh, they're kind of like making fun of it, or they give you a hard time, and it's no big deal. And for other person, that might be really paralyzing for them. So everyone's going to follow in a different whatever space, but permission to set them when you need to, with whom you need to. The narcissistic one, that's such a loaded, especially if that's a parent, that is so painful, so loaded. That's a journey to be able to heal and overcome those wounds. So if I'm in a tender space, when I'm doing any work, my inner circle gets more tiny and I can only be around my safest safe people. And when I come out of it, after I've kind of done and I've integrated more, then I can have more people that maybe even slightly trigger me or whatever. I can be more out. But if you're feeling really raw or tender during this challenge, that's good for you. It means that you're doing really good work, and protect yourself. Like, absolutely just stay with your safest people, is my thought.
I agree. I even told Daniel, I was like, okay, let's try to schedule out different play times with Theo. So even I can have time away from the puppy and I can do this on my own. And I have, this is going to be my sacred half hour where I'm going to go in the bedroom and nobody disturb me. Just even those little things. I can imagine people who are parents and you have young kids running around. It's hard to find the same time every day, but figure out how you can get that little bit of time in. Lacey's on maternity leave with her brand new beautiful baby, and she's like, I'm breastfeeding and I have my DI. So just see where you can. Give yourself grace. It's okay if you need to go at a slower pace. Just keep returning back to it. That's why we always talk about accountability buddies. They can be that motivation. Asha, who you guys may have heard on the process episode a few weeks back, she's my accountability buddy for the challenge. And over the weekend, she goes, okay, I haven't done the pre-week yet, but I'm going to do it today. I promise. I'm like, all right, girl, get on it. And she's like, I think I'm going to take this block through. I'm like, did you do the exercise yet? She's like, no. All right, do the exercise and then message me.
Yeah.
So just have that friend or someone you go to for accountability. I'm definitely going to be sharing on my Instagram a lot more. I'm going to try to do a little question box once a week on there for anything coming up for you guys. The To Be Magnetic Instagram is going to have some great stuff. Janelle always shares the best nervous system and just overall healing stuff on her Instagram, which is fantastic. And check out the community group. A lot of people are going to be in there. We're going to have week over week stuff. Join the podcast, connect with us from all angles there too. Janelle, do you know, are you going to go through the challenge? What's your block?
Of course.
What are you doing?
I think I want to take mine, really the theme of like surrender for me. Just surrender is what's coming up. I mean, you guys know I have a 13-year-old boy so who loves his autonomy and my wanting to keep him safe. And that is where my triggers lie these days, is parenting a teenage boy. So I'm working through surrender.
Yes.
And I have lots of little things that I'm calling in. You know, one being like artwork for my home would be great. I was like looking at it. I was like, well, I need to manifest that. Cars are kind of like second homes, right? I'm wanting a car. I'm driving around lots of teenage boys with lots of surfboards. And I'm like, it's time for a new one. And I, did the TBM work to manifest my last one. But I'm like, and it's not the right time, but like that's a big-ish one that I want to come through, but lots of more like little things, more of the emotional state of I really want to be not anxious around my teenage boy. I want to be able just to have some more surrender as he's interested in e-bikes and all the scary things.
Someone in the chat was like, I can so relate to wanting to keep them safe as a teenager. It's so difficult to let go.
Thank you. What are you? You shared a little bit, but...
Yeah, so it's really about feeling safe to honor my needs first. It's not going to create abandonment, disconnection, all of those things. And it's interesting the like little tricky ways it kind of has dug its roots in. The behavioral reaction to it is overworking, or the behavioral reaction to it is people pleasing, or not doing those things for myself, like self-care things or movement in a way that feels good, or having a consistent routine, or, whatever it is. It comes in all these little sneaky ways, but it roots down to that one belief. So I'm really excited. Can't wait to just like enter it. I couldn't be more sick of my shit, like that feeling. I'm just like, let's move on here. We got this.
So good.
And I'm glad to be entering this season and this portal kind of together collectively. It is so powerful when we all have that collective healing container at the same time. The reverberations, I don't know the science or the spirituality behind it, but all I can say is it's magic. It's really cool.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like we're all kind of lifting each other up. The more that we go in and do our work, it's helping everyone else around us too.
Yeah, you feel it.
Big time. Good luck, everyone. It's going to be so amazing. There's plenty of places to connect with us, but this is going to be an incredible portal. It's so possible to change. If you feel like your block is stuck, it's in your way, you're not sure how to connect with your manifestation, this is going to be your protocol. Just go week over week with us, and I'm so excited to see what shakes out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janelle. Thank you so much for all of your incredible work and wisdom and intuitive messages. You just so well know how to describe and put things in such a gentle space of feeling held. Every time I chat with you, I'm like, oh, yes, okay, I feel relaxed.
Oh, and thank you too. You deserve the credit for, all of the work that you do with the DIs and the challenge. Jessica has you guys know, the biggest heart to really help people. And so it's just amazing. So thank you for it too. I'm really excited.
The community manifested it. We knew. All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
I hope you all enjoyed that episode as much as we did. And if you're starting to get a feel for this to be magnetic manifestation process but aren't completely sold yet, let me point you to some of our free offerings. You can check out the expanded podcast episode called How to Manifest Anything You Desire, where Lacey, the founder, and I break down exactly what this process is all about. You can check out The Motivation, which is our testimonial library with thousands of testimonials of people who have manifested wild things using this process. Or you can check out our free mini workshop to find out why you're not manifesting and listen to one of our proprietary deep imagining audios, where it's going to help you drop into your theta state and overwrite low self-worth limiting beliefs. Enjoy! We'll see you next week.